All right, everybody. Good morning. Hope you guys are doing well. It is Saturday, and you guys know what that means. Most weeks during the course of a NFL season, it means it's the day before your team plays, and that is the case this week. The Seattle Seahawks are one day away, about 25 hours away from playing the Carolina Panthers. They are going on the road taking on Carolina in a game that Seattle definitely needs in order to keep pace in the NFC at the very top. Now, Carolina, they're in a little bit of a different spot, and that could end up affecting this game. They are very much in the playoff race, but what happens in this game has very little to do with whether or not they will stay in the playoff race. So, if the Panthers don't seem fully invested in this game, if they end up pulling some starters at halftime or something like that, if they seem to be playing things on the cautious side, that might be why. I don't know what to expect from Carolina this week, but I know what to expect from Seattle. All right, guys, let's take a minute so I can tell you guys about Sleeper. I'll tell you a little secret as well. It's more than just a platform for fantasy leagues. This year, millions of users have enjoyed playing fantasy sports on Sleeper, but there's so much more to it. You have live stats, real time updates of all stats. You have a news feed with lightning fast updates on players and teams, and a real time chat where you can engage with other users about plays, performances, games, all kinds of stuff during the sports season. So download Sleeper, experience it for yourself, and don't forget to use my promo code SBN to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit, and pair that with their new promo that will give you a free $20 entry, no deposit needed. So you can use both of those promos. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states and going. So check out Sleeper today and use those promos. Okay, so all that being put to the side for a second, let's assume we're getting a pretty decent shot from Carolina. Maybe we don't get everything, but they take this game seriously at least. So what are we dealing with these Carolina Panthers? It's kind of hard to answer that because if I were asked to identify something that this Panthers team does well, I don't think I could do it. I don't think I could identify something that this Panthers team is actually really good at in terms of football. Do they throw the ball well, or do they have a good passing attack? No. Do they have a good rushing attack? It's a little above average, maybe, but I wouldn't consider it to be a good rushing attack. Excuse me. So offensively, not really, and defensively, I kind of feel the same way. Do they get after the quarterback? I don't see it. Do they stop the run? No. It's just one of those weird things. And this is the part where you wonder, well, if they don't do anything good, how are they 8-7? How are they on the verge of playing a game for the NFC South in a week? How are they still a relevant team? I think the main answer is they've been very clutch. And that's not me being sarcastic. That's not me making a joke here. This is one of the most important things that a football team or any sports team can be. They can be clutch. Clutch can overcome a lot of shortcomings. Like, think about their game against Miami way back in week 5. They had a big deficit in that game and they had to make it up, and they just barely did. But that was a great example of a game where they were getting completely bashed in, and then they were able to wake up in time to go win it. Dallas, they win that game on a last second field goal. Green Bay, they won that game on a last second field goal. Atlanta, they win in overtime. Rams, they threw a game-winning touchdown on 4th down and then forced a fumble when LA was driving down to either tie or win. And of course, Tampa Bay, they come up with the interception at the very end to win it. So it's not a team that kind of thoroughly dominates you throughout or even controls the game. When they win, they typically win because they get it done at the very end. And again, that is not me trying to dismiss them or consider them to be in any way illegitimate. No, it's just an acknowledgement of the fact that this is what they do to win games. They get it done at the end of the game when it's close. Like, look at a lot of their losses. A lot of them are blowouts. Kind of blown out by Jacksonville, kind of blown out by, or not kind of blown out, really blown out by New England and Buffalo. Two-score, this wasn't a blowout, but two-score loss to San Fran. Two-score loss to New Orleans. By the way, they got swept by New Orleans this year, so gives you an idea of how flawed they are as a team. But when the going gets tough, they have come through repeatedly. They have come up with the big plays when they really needed it. So that is kind of what we're dealing with this week. But if you're just talking about them X's and O's wise, there isn't a lot. Passing attack, Bryce Young has been better this year. Bryce Young, I think, has been a little bit better than I was expecting coming out of college. I was not high on him at all, but still, I see massive limitations there. I see a very limited player, and I don't really see anything all that intimidating. He does make the occasional Pat Mahomes-like throw, but there's also a lot of stuff there that I really don't like. I think that there's a lot of accuracy issues here. I think that there's a lot of kind of rookie-type mistakes, and I think that he is part of the reason why this passing attack is not threatening. Now, they don't have a lot for him to work with. McMillan's been great, but you got Xavier Legette, you got Jalen Coker, you got, I guess, David Moore, if they have him. There isn't a lot for him to throw to. And like I said, on the surface of it, they got a nice rushing attack. They got, obviously, Rico Dowdle, who's become their star running back this year. He's been really good. And then you've got Chuba Hubbard. He's been okay. But in terms of actually using that running game to generate points, it's actually been like mediocre. It's better than Seattle's, but most teams have a better rushing attack in terms of actual effectiveness than Seattle. Carolina, they get the yards, but they're not really converting that into points very well. It's kind of like Atlanta. Atlanta had this same problem. They got great running backs. They get a lot of yards. They move the ball down the field, but it's not really affecting the actual meaningful part of the game. So it is kind of weird. It is one of those things where the rest of the team, I think, is having a hard time supplementing that running game. So I'm not here to say their running game is bad, but it is overrated. You look at those two guys, you look at that two-headed monster in the backfield, and you're like, wow, these guys are a big problem back there. They're really not. They're okay. They're decent. So I'm not overly intimidated by that. Seattle's run defense had a little bit of a weird game on Thursday. It wasn't bad, but there were problems. I don't think this is a bad opportunity for them to get back on track. And more than anything else, I think this pass rush, this is a great chance to redeem yourself because the last 4 games they've played, there hasn't been a lot of quarterback pressure. There just simply hasn't. So if they get out there, get some pressure on Bryce Young, I think that you might be having something to work with there. That will give you some reason to believe the pass rush is waking up in time for the postseason. Because even though we've won these last 4 games we played, I think it's 4 games, the pass rush really hasn't been there. It's been very, very mediocre, if that. I'd say the last 2 games, it's been kind of bad. But I do think that this is an opportunity for them to get back on track. And I believe that Bryce Young is like the 25th or 26th most pressured QB in football. And he's also a guy that's going to scramble around a little bit, hold on to the ball maybe a little bit longer than he should. He's going to give you opportunities to make plays on plays like that. He is a guy that will put the ball in harm's way in a way that a Matt Stafford won't, or even really a Phillip Rivers at this point really won't. So you're also going to have some chances at turnovers that kind of eluded you in recent weeks. So I think there's a lot to get excited about there. And I'm feeling good about that matchup. I will say this. The game's on the road. And I don't want to understate that. I do not want to understate the impact of this game being on the road. Carolina seems like a team that has a genuine home field advantage. So there are some things going on here beyond just the X's and O's. But I think that this is the kind of defense that should be able to give a quarterback like Bryce Young a really long day. And I think we can do it without blitzing too. I don't think blitzing is a necessity, although it's more likely you're going to be able to have success blitzing Bryce Young than you would a Matt Stafford, which we tried to do last week and it failed miserably. So I am pretty locked in on this defense making Bryce Young miserable. And as long as they don't allow the Panthers to just run the ball 40, 45 times, I think they're good there. Other side of the ball, Seattle has the ball. Carolina's defense, again, they have good players. I don't really know what they're good at. What are they really doing that is effective? I think that's a really hard question to answer. And I feel like you look at their pass rush, they have one of the worst pass rushes in the league. The only team in the NFL that has had a worse pass rush than Carolina this year has been San Fran. Now, I think Carolina's pass rush is better than San Fran's, and it might be better than one or two teams because Nick Scourton has kind of emerged in recent weeks and he's starting to feel himself. And that's providing some pass rush that they did not have before his breakout. So there is a little bit of a threat there. But other than that, what do they really have? They have Derek Brown. Derek Brown, big breakout year for him, doing great stuff. But Derek Brown, at the end of the day, is more of a nose tackle type. Now, he's kind of emerged into being more than that. But this is not some superstar 3-tech type that's going to get 10-plus sacks in a season. He's got 5 this year. That's a really good total for him. And he's proving his value in other ways. But this is not somebody you want to be your leading pass rusher. And through 15 games, I think he pretty much has been. Now, they're hoping that maybe they get some reinforcements for the postseason, of course. But right now, Derek Brown is probably your best bet getting pressure on the inside. And he's not great at it. He's not DeForest Buckner. He's not Aaron Donald. I don't even really think he's Jalen Carter. So that's not a great formula. And that's why Carolina doesn't really get pressure. So for a Seattle offensive line that has had some problems in recent weeks, at the very least, they haven't looked great. This is a chance to look great. Now, Derek Brown could be a problem for this interior offensive line that has been kind of bad lately, but I'm going to be open-minded. I'm going to give him a chance, and I'm going to hope we see something a lot better this week. So we got that going on. Beyond that, like I said, the run defense also has been really bad this year, which is weird, right? Because you've got Derek Brown. He's given you this big breakout year. He's, in my opinion, probably supposed to make the All-Pro team this year, should have made the Pro Bowl. And yet, for some reason, you're still not good defending the run. It's a complete waste of his abilities and talent. So, obviously, very frustrating for Carolina that they have this really good player and they're not really getting miles out of him. He's just kind of almost in a vacuum playing well, and it's not having that big of an effect on the rest of the team. That's kind of the way I read it. So when I look at this Carolina team, I see a team that you can throw the ball on and you can run the ball on. And they're not going to have Tershawn Wharton, one of their rotational tackles, and they're also not going to have Trevin Wallace, their outside linebacker. So they should be susceptible to running. And Seattle, look, the run game is not everything we wanted it to be this year. I think we can say that's officially settled. And it's probably never going to get to where we want it to be. It would have happened by now. So all we can do is ride with the run game that we have, which has become kind of a boomer bust rushing attack. We grind out 2 yards, 3 yards, 2 yards, 3 yards, no gain, and then we bust it for 50. That's kind of what we become, but so be it. I can go down with that. I can go down with that ship a little bit. At this point, we got no other choice. And if there's one thing to say about this Carolina defense that I think is like beyond just, oh, they're not really good at anything. And I want to be clear, this doesn't help them as much as it should. Kind of like Derek Brown. They do got some nice players in that secondary. J.C. Horn, Mike Jackson. I talked about Mike Jackson earlier this week. They got good corners. They got okay safeties. But it doesn't stop them from getting beat. So I think the passing attack should work fairly well as well. Mostly because, again, I think the big problem here is they don't get pressure. So as long as this offensive line holds up, and I mean, that's no guarantee. We do have Josh Jones out there. I know he played well last week, but with these backups, some days it's there, some days it's not there, and you're on the road. I think that's a big determining factor for whether or not a backup player shows up sometimes. On the road, they might not have it. But as long as you don't allow this Carolina pass rush to get off, I don't think there's a lot they can do. So, feeling pretty good. I'm going to go with something like Seattle 27, Carolina 20. And I hope we can just keep on moving towards the top seed. All right, I'm going to get out of here. Go Hawks. Probably another video later today, maybe 2. But keep an eye out for me on Twitch. See you guys soon.